Hi guys, now I'm continuing with my Mizar overview. I'm logging in now into an account that I had created last week. It's been a bit over a week now. And I saw that some of you also created an account with my ref ID. Thank you for this. I wish you much success in trading on this platform, and I'll do my best to help you with this. So if recall from the last episode, I created this ID because I wanted to show you everything from the beginning, how it would look like if you create a brand new account in Mizar, and how would the credit system work in terms of using somebody's bots to pay the profit fee as well as the valuing fee. So in this episode, I will continue to show you the specifics of Mizar payment. I will also show you more of Mizar bots, how to use different Mizar bots, and we'll look at some other strategies aside of the one that I had shown you in the previous video. So when you log in again, note that it shows you paper trading, and most probably you are not using paper, at least not right away when you're just starting. So I actually turn it off on myself, and that's what I also suggest for you. Turn off paper, and then we can see real money. We can see the real trading, and I'm showing you now the stats from the bot, or two bots, in fact, from the two strategies that I have shown in the previous episode. In the previous episode, I've shown you how to connect to my BTC scalper. So if you followed my instructions in the previous episode, your stats would look similar. Depends on your investment size, of course. And if you haven't seen the previous episode, if you haven't followed the instructions, you can, of course, go back, rewatch it, and connect these two bots to your account. Now, look, remember we started with 5 credits, and now we have 4. So if I click here, well, in fact, we have more than 4. So we have $4.79 out of 5. And you can see that these 20 cents, this 21 cents, was in fact used as the payment for performance fee. So again, when you started, you received $5 worth of credit as a welcome bonus, and you connected the bot, and you paid now 20 cents for this Bitcoin scalper strategy that you connected. There are 2 bots there, long and short. The net profit you can see is similar. The short was a bit outperforming. The weak was rather negative in terms of the price action. It was sliding down, and you made money. You made how much was it? Almost $2, right? Or over $2, the total P&L. But out of these $2.77, you would pay 20 cents as a performance fee. And you would pay them out of your credits. So again, when you start with Mizar, and that's one of the biggest advantages that I see about this platform, it's perfect for beginners or someone who doesn't have a large capital, large wallet size. You can start basically for free, and you can make some small profit, or if you know what you're doing, maybe relatively large profit, and you would not have to pay any subscription fee. Now let's continue to talk a bit about the interface. Again, if you registered and you've used this platform for a week, you may have already gotten a feel of different areas of the platform. If you go to DCA bots, these are the 2 bots that we had started. We subscribed to 2 strategies, both long and short. They're running on one account. Again, as per previous episode, if you haven't watched it, please do that. You'll understand what I'm talking about. And in this DCA bot, you can see the overview of your bots and subscriptions. Now, both of these bots happen to hold a position at the same time, so it's a hedged setup. Here you can see unrealized profit on either of them. And if you go to positions, here you'll see the same, but with more details. These are actual positions, the positions that you're holding right now. And here in history section, you can see the history of subscriptions. There's no history because the current subscriptions are active, but you can see history of positions. And here we will see the trades that these two bots, the short and the long scalper, had made over the last week. So again, this Bitcoin scalper is something that I designed, and I'm fairly proud of it because it's stable, it's consistent, it's not producing a huge return, but it's doing so consistently even in flat markets. I will show you today how to subscribe to another strategy, but before I leave this particular menu, this interface, I want to go back to the current positions. So current positions right here, you can see what's going on, and you can actually somehow influence and manipulate the positions manually if you decide to do so. For example, what you could do is you could, you would select the position or the bot that you want to manipulate, and you could add funds, edit profit, change or add safety orders, or you can even close that position or cancel it and close it on the exchange. These functions are similar in Mizar as they are in 3Commas, and they would be useful for bots and strategies that kind of got away, that lost control. So if automation is somehow not handling the price action, if you start having a big red bag, then you may need to take an action manually. And I don't think that would happen for these particular bots, maybe very occasionally. But if you needed to have a manual intervention into the strategies, you would again select your position like this. And for example, you could change your profit to, for example, 0. If you wanted to try to get out with a break even, I don't want to in this case. Or you could, if all the 3 safety orders currently, this strategy is using 3 safety orders. And if all 3 would be consumed, and I could, for example, add another safety order here like this, or I could just add funds. That would also be possible. So this area is for you to use occasionally for things that don't go as planned, for bots that don't handle price action automatically. Okay, let's go back to the dashboard. So I promised to you that we'll go and design our own bot from scratch. But before we do that, I still want to explore the marketplace together with you and study other people's bots and other people's strategies. And again, maybe subscribe to one more just to make sure that this knowledge and experience is clear to you. So here again in the marketplace, we see the bots that are published. We can sort them by the one with the highest return in the last 30 days. or by popularity, or by P&L from the followers. So this auto DCA bot is actually matching multiple criteria, and I think it's also one of the oldest bots. Let's see. Yes, also one of the oldest bots, so we can open that bot real fast. But as I can see, it's trading on spot, so we will look at this bot, but I would probably not subscribe to it. I'll look for something that's trading on futures. But let's look at this first. So now I will review this particular bot and maybe another one, and I'll kind of assess it in a way that explains to you all the features of the UI, the settings, but also logic that you would make for deciding whether you want to copy or invest into that particular strategy or not. So we start with this auto DCA. The first thing I would look here is a description. This is very limited description. This trader has some additional information here. For example, there's the website and also Discord. So at least there is some information. You would have to get into it, dig around, and then you look at the settings. So in the settings, you can see a lot about the bot. You can see, for example, that it's a multi-pair bot, and there's a lot of pairs that it supports. It is possible that the strategy that sends the buy signal is pre-selecting somehow and has a smaller list of pairs that it accepts to enter, but this is a big list, so potentially there may be some shit coins that actually you don't want to trade. Then you can see that this is a spot bot, so it's not probably going to work on futures. And we can see the take profit and also stop loss settings. Take profit is set to 5% on this strategy, and we also have this a bit of a strange figure of 97.5 for a stop loss. And finally, in the settings, you can see the DCA, the safety order settings. This is very similar to what 3 commas offers in terms of terminology or the options. So we have maximum number of safety orders here, in this case 3, and the first safety order is opened after 7% after the base order. Then the step scale is quite aggressive. It's multiplied by 3, so 7, then multiplied by 3, then another multiplication by 3, so it's very wide. And the volume scale is 1.6, so we increase in our order size by 1.6 with each safety orders. So these are the settings that the bot has right now at this moment. And again, you can see that the take profit here is 5%. And what I immediately noticed is that as the take profit is set to 5%, the statistics tells me something else. The statistic tells me that the best trade on the bot was 20%, and the worst trade is 65%. So that means to me that maybe sometimes in the past year, or maybe even recently, the settings of the bot were different, or maybe there was a manual action performed. So these statistics apply to this either manual action or the previous settings of the bot. And I don't like that too much, right? It means that the strategy somehow is still evolving, that the person is still changing the strategy. It is possible that currently, last 2 months, it's been steady, and this 8% that we see here in the last 30 days is something that perhaps we can anticipate in the future. If you look at the positions here, that's another area to examine. We can see all the positions that are currently open on the strategy provider's bot. So each strategy provider also needs to run his own bot. And when the person is running his bot, his or her bot, then we can see that these are the bags, these are the open positions with a negative unrealized P&L that they're holding. So there are a few bags here, and this is the list of all the positions. You can also see how much they down and how long they've been in this red state. And by the way, you will also notice that this person is trading on paper. So his open positions here shown as paper. Also, as we go to close positions, it's also shown that they are trading on paper. And that's also not ideal for me, because trading on paper is different than trading on the real exchange. There's a bit of a difference. So last closed positions, well, I can see this is around 5%. So as I mentioned, probably they changed the bot settings, and now it's running with these latest settings of 5% take profit target. But if I scroll down, July, it's still around 5%, but beginning of July, right here, already, we can see different targets. So it is possible that the strategy somehow been evolving or is dynamic, or they manipulated this manually. The issue here is that if they manipulated this manually, the manual manipulation of their positions, such as forcing the position to be closed and so on, actually would not be reflected on your position. You would either have to do it manual as well, or would wait until the profit target that is specified in the bot settings would be reached. So all in all, what I'm trying to say here is that this bot is old, that's nice. There is some consistent trend of profits, that's also nice. But I do believe that the strategy was somehow evolving and was adjusted. That is not so nice to me, because I don't know how much reliable this past data is. Also, I'm not very happy that the owner of the bot is running this on paper. So the stats are not exactly the same as they would be if they were run on a real exchange. Let's look now at another bot on the marketplace, but now the one that's running on futures. That one was on spot, and now we're going to look at futures. Guys, I was speaking fast in the last few minutes, so if you need a break, pause this video. Also, just to make a break as well, I want to come back and remind you, if you have not registered to Mizar, use the referral ID below, because it will give you a discount on your fees. You will get the 5 USD worth of credit, and you'll get a 10% discount on your volume fees. So that is something you'll get when you use the referral that I list below. Okay, so let's look at one more bot together. Maybe I'll go slower. Okay, so we're back at the marketplace. We're looking at the futures, and I actually would like to subscribe to a bot that has both long and short entry positions. So that would be marked here as LS, L/LS, versus the one direction bot, such as long only or short only. And there's this bot, and then there's this bot. So these ones sorted by the highest ROI. And I don't necessarily think you should go for the highest ROI, because usually there is a catch. Either the strategy is not consistent, because it's very hard to keep high ROI every month. Look here, for example. Over the year, I think this may have a good return anyway. hard to calculate just by looking at it, but for sure not every month. And which one? I said this one. So this is new again. We cannot see far into the past how this was performing. Maybe it had a problem. And I think usually when you see such a smooth profit curve, it means the bot is relying heavily on DCA because we are kind of brute forcing the market. We're continuously increasing our order size until the position exits. And that means that the entry signal may not be actually very strong because we rely on DCA and safety orders to exit. And we also employ a lot of capital. And when you trade on futures, when you trade altcoins, then you increase your risk with that. Okay, so this person only selects 7 coins that he or she looks at. Looks like these are meme coins. He has 10 safety orders, so that's again quite heavy, as I mentioned. Okay, here he's not doubling it, but he's increasing it by 1.5. So that's quite a big increase. So if I go for this bot, if I invest and copy this strategy, I will need, I think, quite some capital. So I will not use, here it says you can choose number of positions to have on your bot. So I will not choose 6, I will choose, for example, 2. And this amount says basically what's the total capital that would be employed. With 10x leverage, my margin requirement is 57 USDT. With 20, it's 28 USDT. But that's just enough money to open orders. That would not be enough to withstand the situation if the price goes against you. So if your price goes against you by a significant amount, maybe like 50% or so, and you having a large position, then you would need 50% of that total capital. So namely, you need around $260. And this is with this tiny base order size of 2.5. I'm not even sure the exchange would allow that small of an order. So if I put 10 as my base order size and my max positions would be 2, the total capital employed would be 2,286. And to be safe, I would recommend you have at least 1,000 on that account. And if you want to see this visually, we click here, and here we see how the safety orders of that particular bot use capital. So the capital grows. As I mentioned to you, it's increasing by 1.5. So we start with 10. Then it's first safety order is 20. Second is 1.5, so 35, and then so on. This 10 safety order is 1,143 USDT. And here on this table below, this shows the settings of the safety orders in terms of the position size. And it also shows the history of the hit ratio in terms of exit. So we can see that about 50% of the orders were exiting at the base order. They didn't need safeties. And I think 50% is quite a low ratio. So it's just half of the orders exited and the rest required either 1 or 2 or 3 or sometimes 7 safety orders. So here you would be buying, for example, one of these. You saw this ladies coin or other meme coin. You would be risking that, right? You would be risking your capital on these altcoins if you wanted to make, what was that bot promised us? I forgot, 14%. So It's a little bit of a gamble, but I promised you I would subscribe to another bot, so I chose this one. I don't want to now take another bot to review, so I will invest into this just to show you how it works. So I go for 10 USDT as my base order. I'll take my max positions, number of positions. So how many pairs I want at the same time? I'll say just 2 and leverage 20. And you know what? I actually will click next, but I will not proceed because on this account that I connected, I only have 178 USDT. So I think I would put myself in unnecessary risk by starting this bot. But if you wanted to start it, if you had this money and you wanted that type of return, you would click next. And here it reminds you that the performance fee is 15%. And you would just have to acknowledge that all the risks are yours, and then you would invest. So here, that bot is here. Currently, it's 0.2 positions. So again, let me stop it because I don't have that capital on my exchange. But if I did, and I wanted to be a bit more adventurous, I probably would run this bot and look for the higher return. So now I've shown you a bit of the performance of the strategy that we had subscribed to, namely this one. By the way, while we were talking, the long bot exited. So we could see it here in the positions history. Took a while, but it exited. And we still have a short position to exit. It hasn't taken any safety orders. So this strategy is running now on this account, and I've shown you that credits are being consumed very slowly. So it's enough, there's enough credits for me to continue making money. I was only taking credits for the performance fee. I was not taking any credits for the volume fee because the volume was actually fairly low. My trading volume was fairly low. And in Mizar, you have different levels. So if I go here at check pricing, you will see that normally you would start with Nebula and your volume fee would be 0.75. But as I mentioned, if you use my ref, and I'm sorry about repeating that, just to illustrate the point, you would have 10% less of that. And then you could move up in your star levels. So you would pay less and less fees. And the fees reduction would also be applied to your trading volume, as well as the fees that you would pay to strategy provider. So you'd have performance fees reduction there as well. So for example, if I go at the very bottom or very top, you'll see that this black hole level, this is something that you would gain if you gain this level. Your trading volume would be fee would be 0.0035%. So it's a very small percent, and you would pay only half of the performance fee that the strategy provider is requesting. So if strategy provider is asking for 10% or 20%, you would only pay half of that to the strategy provider. So large investors would qualify for quite a significant reduction in the volume fees and performance fees. And as I can see today, Mizar is offering these discounts for somebody who's taking MZR token. So I think it is interesting. We can get into that. Maybe in one of the videos. I'm actually interested to see how easy it is to purchase and stake that particular token. But for someone who doesn't have a large capital, as I mentioned, for a new investor, new trader, you don't really need to worry about any of that. You could stay at your Nebula. You could make, well, here it's maybe not too impressive, like the $2 that I made in the last week, but I think you could scale it to 20 or even to 200 and still have very reasonable fee schedule, and your star standing doesn't need to be very high here. So let's explore this in all the upcoming videos. Let's see how much we can continue to gain from the platform and how much it would cost us. Thank you for watching. Talk to you next weekend.